Hey, it's Mr. Shrum, and I am back to give another tutorial. And we have moved on to the circulatory system. And in this one, we're going to look at the function of the circulatory system. So what does it do? How does it do it? We'll get into all of that right now. The primary functions of the cardiovascular system are to deliver oxygen, hormones, and nutrients within blood to body tissues. And the second primary function is to circulate blood carrying wastes to the organs that excrete the waste. The components of the cardiovascular system are the heart, blood, and blood vessels. The heart is a hollow muscular organ that circulates blood. The heart is located in the mediastinum, which is posterior to the lower half of the sternum, so behind your lower part of the sternum, anterior to the thoracic vertebrae, so in front of your vertebrae, and then between your two lungs. And you can see that here. Blood is a liquid connective tissue that delivers nutrients to the body and helps transport waste. Blood contains red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and plasma. Blood vessels are the vessels that carry blood to and away from the heart. The types of blood vessels include arteries, arterioles, capillaries, venules, and veins. Those are all blood vessels. Arteries are the muscular walled vessels that carry oxygenated blood away from the heart. So think of arteries, away, arteries, away. Arterioles, those are small arteries that connect to capillaries. So arteries, and then the smaller versions are arterioles. Then we have capillaries. These are one cell thick microscopic vessels that function to exchange nutrients and waste material between blood and tissue. Venules are small veins that carry deoxygenated blood from the capillaries to the veins. And veins are vessels that carry deoxygenated blood back to the heart. And if you notice the coloring on these diagrams, arteries are usually depicted as red. And that is because this is oxygenated blood, and that is to distinguish between oxygenated red blood in the diagram and blue deoxygenated blood in this diagram for veins. The blood vessels connect together in one big circle, which is why the cardiovascular system is also known as the circulatory system. The heart is both the beginning and the end of this system. It is also the pump that propels blood through the circulatory system. And that is it for that function section. Now we're going to look at the circulation path. So where does blood go all throughout the body? Through the heart, the lungs, and the rest of your body. So like we discussed in the previous set of slides, the heart is a pump and it propels blood through the system. It's divided into 4 chambers: right and left atria, right and left ventricle. The right atrium is the chamber of the heart that receives deoxygenated blood returning from the body, right there. The right ventricle is the chamber of the heart that receives blood from the right atrium, and then it pumps it to the lungs. It's right there. So right atrium into the right ventricle, gets pumped to the lungs. The left atrium is the chamber of the heart that receives oxygenated blood returning from the lungs. And that can be seen here. So we have right atrium into the right ventricle to the lungs, and then back to the left atrium. And now the blood has been oxygenated by the lungs. The left ventricle is the chamber of the heart that receives blood from the left atrium, and then it pumps it to the body. So right atrium to right ventricle to the lungs, back to the left atrium to the left ventricle, and then pumped to the rest of your body. As blood circulates through the heart, it passes through valves. The atrioventricular, or AV valves, and semilunar valves, SLV. The AV valves, plural, are located between the atria and the ventricles on either side of the heart. These valves prevent backflow of blood and the ventricles to the atria. So it keeps the blood flowing one way. The right AV valve is known as the tricuspid valve, and the left AV valve is known as the bicuspid or mitral valve. And those can be seen here. SLV, these types of valves are located between the ventricles and the arteries. The right SL valve is the pulmonary semilunar valve. The pulmonary semilunar valve helps prevent backflow into the right ventricle from the pulmonary artery. The left SL valve is the aortic semilunar valve. The aortic semilunar valve helps prevent backflow into the left ventricle from the aorta. Blood circulates through the heart. Blood enters the right atria, and it goes through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle, through the pulmonary semilunar valve, leaves the heart through the pulmonary artery, goes to the lungs, gets oxygenated, returns to the left atria, goes through the bicuspid valve into the left ventricle, through the aortic semilunar valve, and then it leaves the heart altogether through the aorta, and it travels all throughout your body. And there are two circuits within the system itself, the pulmonary circuit and then the systemic circuit. And taking a look at those two, the pulmonary circuit transports blood from the right side of your heart to the lungs. It's relatively low pressure system. You know, your heart's not like pumping hard to do this job. And this circuit allows gas exchange within the lungs. So this is a picture of all the pulmonary circuit. And this circuit goes like this. Deoxygenated blood enters the right atria, goes to the right ventricle, to the pulmonary artery, to the lungs. The lungs oxygenate the blood. Then it goes back through the pulmonary vein. So remember, arteries are away from the heart and veins are towards the heart. Pulmonary artery away to the lungs, gets oxygenated, and then goes to the pulmonary vein to get back to the heart, to the left atria. Now, the systemic circuit transports blood from the left side of the heart to the body. This part is a high pressure system. The left ventricle has the hardest job within the heart, so it has the strongest and thickest muscular walls. And this circuit goes like this. Oxygenated blood enters the left atria, goes into the left ventricle, into the aorta. The body receives the oxygen, which deoxygenates the blood. So the blood is oxygenating the body, Therefore, it doesn't have any oxygen left within itself. It goes to the superior or inferior vena cava, depending on which part of the body it went to. Superior is for your upper body, inferior is for your lower body. And then back into the heart, into the right atria. So here it's putting it all together, and the color coordination will tell you whether the blood is oxygenated or deoxygenated. Red is oxygenated, blue is deoxygenated. So we have the whole list right here. Right atria, through the tricuspid valve, right ventricle, into the pulmonary semilunar valve, or through the valve, and then into your lungs. So that is all deoxygenated blood. Gets to your lungs, gets oxygenated. Now we go into the left atria of the heart, through the valve, into the left ventricle, through the aortic semilunar valve, and then spread to the body. It oxygenates the body. Now the blood is deoxygenated once again. Okay. All right, so that's the first two PDF slides for this section. Next time, we're going to look at the heartbeat and then circulatory issues that may develop in the heart. So we'll get to that next time. And until then, have a great one. And be sure to message me if you have any questions. And that's that. See you all later. Bye-bye.